with Mike London and Samantha Kume. This is National 9 News.
Three-try run-off. Broncos celebrate as Super League's first champions.
A new plan to identify children who commit serious crime.
Threadbow heroes receive their rewards. Good evening. The inaugural Super League trophy has its first home in Brisbane after the Broncos last night stamped themselves as one of the best rugby league teams of all time. Their 26 points to 8 victory over Cronulla in front of a rain-soaked crowd capped the club's third premiership and sparked a storm of celebrations.
Hello, Brisbane!
With Super League bringing its first grand final to Queensland, a step 20 years back in time to Olivia Newton-John's hit Hollywood musical. Greased Lightning, one of the Grease songs that hit a note with Mother Nature. The heavy rain, though, didn't deter fans who've waited decades for a hometown league grand final. It did, however, prompt renewed calls today for a super stadium with a roof.
Half-time and the rain's coming down.
Fans camped at the Broncos headquarters turned sheets into makeshift shelter, determined to support their team. Despite the result assured, few left the stadium early. Those who'd been poured on, poured out, only after witnessing the historic win.
I'd come again because it's the first grand final I've been to, especially in Brisbane.
Did that spoil it a bit for you?
No, not at all.
With an official crowd attendance figure of just over 58,000, Super League organisers will be toasting the success of the inaugural grand final in Brisbane. However, those celebrations won't compare to that of Broncos players and supporters. The party starting seconds after the final whistle.
And it's over.
Backslapping from fans, tears and kisses from the heroes' families.
Mate, it's the best feeling I've ever made.
Don't get any better than this.
From Wayne Bennett, a relieved grin after a week of smiles.
Yeah, it feels great, actually. Yeah, you know, it's hard. The feeling's just going to get better.
And it did as the players arrived to a sea of congratulations at the clubhouse, fans anxious to touch victory.
Reach out and touch the right there. Here's your chance.
The party expected to continue for some time. Karen Cooper, National 9 News.
Former Premier Wayne Goss is in hospital after experiencing some chest pains while riding his bike. Mr Goss was admitted to the Mater Private Hospital overnight, where he remains in a satisfactory condition. A spokesman for the Goss family says doctors have ordered complete bed rest for the next few days. The spokesman wouldn't confirm or deny the former Premier may have suffered a mild heart attack. He says tests are continuing in a bid to determine what's wrong.
The state government will consider changing laws to identify youngsters who commit serious crimes. The mother of a Sunshine Coast woman murdered by a 16-year-old youth has thrown her support behind the Attorney-General's review.
Denver Beanland has already had one crack at the state's juvenile justice laws. Now he's having another. The Attorney-General says public opinion supports changes to laws which currently ban the identification of offenders aged under 18.
That 15, 16, perhaps even 14-year-olds who commit very serious violent offences, and we've had a number of them in recent times, unfortunately, that those people should be named.
In 1996, Leslie Bliss's 18-year-old daughter Amanda was murdered by a 16-year-old youth on the Sunshine Coast. The boy pleaded guilty and is expected to be sentenced soon.
If these kids are willing to do an adult crime, they should be treated as adults.
She feels no compassion towards the accused or his family.
And by naming him, maybe it may stop him from doing something in the future.
Civil libertarians say US studies have found exactly the opposite.
If anything, it will in fact be worn by these young juvenile offenders as a badge of honour.
But the minister believes the Act is poorly structured and needs an overhaul. Victims of crime agree.
I believe that you lose all your rights once you commit a serious offence, and that's the way it should be and must be.
The government will study laws in other jurisdictions and consider written submissions, which close in 6 weeks. Neil Dawley, National 9 News.
Heartbreak for a handful of residents on Stradbroke Island this morning, waking to discover they owned less beachfront property than yesterday. Around 15 metres of Amity Point dropped into the ocean, taking nearby trees with it. Tons of rock protecting the area have disappeared. Some concrete retaining walls were also destroyed.
And by the time I walked to the front of the yard here, like it was just all going, like instant, like as quick as you could believe.
Some locals believe a slight earth tremor may have triggered the slide. Affected residents have to foot the repair bill themselves. They're appealing to the Redland Shire Council for help.
Henri Paul, the drunk driver who drove Princess Diana to her death, has finally been laid to rest in France. 200 attended the funeral service in his hometown, angry at the finger-pointing by the world.
In a quiet fishing port in western France, mourners arrived to bury one of their own. A simple service for a man whose life had been simple until 3 weeks ago. Ever since the night he drove Princess Diana to her death, the private life and character of Henri Paul have been headline news around the world. 3 times over the drink-drive limit and with antidepressants in his blood, the 41-year-old was finally being laid to rest amid notoriety he'd never known in life. One bouquet on the church steps today bore the message, "Your friends have not been fooled." Inside, workmates from the Ritz Hotel and Monsieur Paul's family weren't burying a public figure, but a son, brother and friend. He was very kind, very calm. I have never seen him drinking, never. But even now, Henri Paul cannot fully rest in peace. His family had wanted a cremation, but their lawyers urged a burial. The police investigation, they warned, is far from over. It's possible there may yet be the need for further tests on his remains. Daniel Blyde, National 9 News.
The thousands of people who took part in the Thredbo rescue have been honoured at an awards ceremony. Their work was described as an inspiring, uplifting saga of human spirit and courage.
The rain had no chance of spoiling today's event. The 1,600 men and women have endured much worse. Last time they selflessly gathered together, the conditions were freezing and they were working around the clock.
A job well done, and on behalf of all of the people of this state, we thank you most sincerely.
When disaster struck Thredbo, burying 19 people in a mountain of rubble, the response was immediate. Within an hour of that fateful landslide, which sent 2 ski lodges crashing down a hill, thousands of rescue workers poured in to help. Governor Gordon Samuels presented the first of 70 major awards to the Thredbo community, many who put emotions aside as they searched for friends and relatives.
It was very hard time, still is.
Other tributes went to the police, the fire brigade, the Salvation Army and the state emergency services.
It's very nice to be recognised.
George Weaver spent every morning on the hill, waiting and hoping. Rescuers recovered the body of his only son, Tony, on the last day of the search.
Words couldn't describe what they'd done. Unbelievable, unbelievable.
Thelma and Cindy Phillips travelled from New Zealand in honour of their daughter and sister, Mary.
Sitting here today was pretty powerful to look around and think that every one of these people in uniform had actually passed through Thredbo, helping.
Can't thank them enough. For 7 days, these men and women searched desperately for life, rewarded with the remarkable recovery of sole survivor Stuart Diver.
Yeah, there's the chair, there's the chair.
Today's awards go part of the way to say thank you.
It's nice to know that things that we do are appreciated.
Shari Armistead, National 9 News.
Ahead, drag racing with police on the Gold Coast.
And a bird's eye view on Mother Nature.
There's been another plane crash at an air show in the United States. The biplane was doing a series of stunts when it suddenly went out of control. Hundreds of spectators watched as it spiraled to the ground. Witnesses say that moments before the plane crashed, the pilot tried to straighten it up. He died on impact. The biplane was part of a collection of rare World War II craft on show to mark the 50th anniversary of the US Air Force.
State education ministers have turned up the heat on the federal government over literacy standards with the release of a new plan to counter the problem. They say it's now up to Canberra to provide more money for literacy programs.
The federal government threatening to cut funding to states that did not meet literacy standards, education ministers today hardened their approach to the problem, releasing an action plan which they say will ensure every child leaving primary school can read and write.
Well, the 10-point plan identifies basically how we're going to continue to develop and also to promote the literacy strategies we already have in our schools.
The Australia-wide action plan will see every child entering primary school tested on their reading and writing skills, From next year, literacy levels for years 3 and 5 will also be tested and compared to national standards, and parents will be given detailed reports. The state ministers now say it's up to their federal counterpart David Kemp to come up with some more money to help them implement the plan.
It would be a very, very foolish federal government and federal minister that didn't make a genuine commitment to education across this nation.
But Dr Kemp says the Commonwealth already gives the states adequate funds.
$12 billion is more than enough to bring every young Australian up to an adequate literacy level.
Chloe Bitcon, National 9 News.
A birdwatcher has come up with an invention that allows him to get up close and personal with his feathered friends. It's a helmet that attracts tiny hummingbirds.
For Dave Leslie, this lakeside cabin is hummingbird heaven. For 30 years, he's been giving the birds, which weigh just 5 grams each, sugar and water in 6 huge feeders on his balcony. But now, such is his devotion, he actually joins them for dinner.
It's kind of like getting into a spacesuit. I call it the Hummer helmet. What I can see here now is a lot more than you can, because I have them right at the end of my nose.
For hours, Dave sits dead still, only his eyes moving, hearing the hum and feeling the breeze from their wings as they beat 200 times a minute.
I think the birds think I'm crazy, but the people think I'm ultra crazy, I suppose.
In the United States, Nick McCallum, National 9 News.
Well, there was plenty of thunder on the Gold Coast today when the local boys in blue competed in Operation Drag. Without a radar gun in sight, the specially modified highway patroller took it right up to the local Rev Brigade, leaving plenty of rubber on the tarmac at the old Surfers Speedway. A special appearance by drag champion Victor Bray showed everyone how it's done. Operation Drag is a police initiative to get the adrenaline off the streets and onto the racetrack where it belongs.
Now to sport, and the Broncos showed everyone how it's done on the footy field today, Bomber.
And Mike, as a result, they're the Super League champions. Today, Manly just scraped home against the Roosters, the league next, and the Woodies stopped the rot in the Davis Cup.
It took hard yakka to bring you this sports report.
Good evening. With representative duties and the World Club Challenge ahead, the Broncos will have to limit celebrations after last night's grand final win. In front of almost 59,000 at ANZ Stadium, Brisbane beat Cronulla 26-8. Alan Langer likely to miss the rest of the season for surgery on his troublesome groin. Points and a premium in grand finals. Even the free-running Broncos opted for goals early. A tackle on John Plath involving 3 Cronulla players was put on report, and Plath on the opposition's hit list. Soon after Brisbane was awarded the penalty, Steve Renouf scored from an Alan Langer bomb.
It's come down for Renouf. Renouf over the line.
Plath continued to work the Sharks even after the half-time hooter. Down 10-2, Cronulla needed to score first after the break, a mistake presenting them with a gift.
Yeah, I felt like, I was responsible for it, but I just didn't want to kick the cans around. I just acted like I lost the game already. I just had to get back into it.
Up by just 2 points, the home side sought inspiration. It came from Peter Ryan. His hit left David Peachy grasping at thin air and allowed the minor premiers to again kick 8 points clear.
It was just a thing that had to be done, and I did it, and it's turned it a bit around for us, and it was great for the team, and that's what I'm about, mate.
With 15 minutes remaining, Pearl's string of 3 tries effectively shut out the Sharks.
Renouf will get his third. Renouf's in for number 3.
In the dying stages, replacement Michael Hancock made the score sheet, the Broncos confirming their status as being a cut above the rest.
It's been a long season for us all year. I mean, we had a lot of pressure on us playing in front of so many Brisbane fans, and tonight we, it just feels like a relief, really.
Relief quickly turned to celebration, captain Alan Langer proudly accepting the Telstra Cup. For the winners, a victory song, the losers a tear or two, but no complaints.
To be fair, the Broncos have been the best side all season, and they've deservedly won the competition.
Carrying the spoils, the Broncos' lap of honour took an eternity, with everyone relishing the moment. Tony Mundine joined son Anthony, the young utility still sidestepping further commitment to Brisbane.
Well, I've got a contract here, man, and that's that.
So there's no conversation yet?
That's all I've got to say, brother.
Manly will defend their Australian Rugby League premiership in next week's grand final after outlasting the Roosters at the Sydney Football Stadium this afternoon. With the scores tied up at 16 all, Craig Field broke the deadlock to lift the Seagulls into the decider against Newcastle.
At stake for Manly and Sydney City, the role of villain against Newcastle's White Knights next week. The Seagulls taking first points when Tuvey was collared by Walker. The Premiers had all the play in the first half but missed 4 chances to cross their opponent's line. That was before fate intervened in the 29th minute when Danny Moore failed to field a kick in the greasy conditions. Jack Elsgood over against the run of play. 6-2 to the Roosters, 6-4 the half-time score after Shannon Nevin kicked his second goal. Manly back in front when Anthony Colella and Craig Innes combined to spread eagle the defence.
Innes is going to score! Innes is over!
An anxious wait for Jim Sedaris after he was placed on report. Neil Tierney to join him. The grand final almost a formality when Danny Moore and Steve Menzies combined to give Manly a 10-point lead with 20 minutes left. It was then Sydney City staged an irresistible fight back, luck again with Jack Elsgood.
Elsgood! Oh, he is a miracle worker!
Scott Goulet crashing over to level with just 7 minutes left.
Goulet's over!
With 2.5 on the